Hey, how's it going today? It's just another AuthorTube, and today I want to talk about this book I read, The Ghost Hunters Adventures Club and the Secrets of the Grand Chateau. Particularly, I want to talk about my experience with this book's transmedia storytelling marketing. Ghost Hunters Adventures Club and the Secret of the Grand Chateau is written by Dr. Cecil H.H. Mills, and the story centers around a set of possible brothers, JJ and Valentine Watts, and their new friend, Truly De La Rosa, as they try to solve a murder that occurs within a chateau over the course of a winter storm. For me, this book has clean prose, a steady pace, evocative language, memorable characters, and superb structure. It's well written and quite a fun read. There are certain aspects in this book that usually drive me a little bit batty. However, these aspects are executed in such a charming and deliberate fashion that you as the reader have no choice but to lower your guard and go along for the ride. One of the aspects that I dislike in general, and it tends to be quite common in modern media, is to address a creative deficiency without fixing said deficiency. Case in point would be the first few lines of the book. Now, as any writer or reader might know, your first line or lines, that's what really grabs your reader. That's what brings them in. It's meant to really just sink your hooks into your reader. However, the author of this book doesn't necessarily take that route. If I can just read the first line of the introduction as well as the first line of the first chapter. Now, context, the introduction is written entirely from the author's point of view, Dr. Cecil H.H. Mills. Here it goes. People seem to place a lot of importance on first sentences in books, so I'll put this here and we can avoid that altogether. Okay. JJ and Valentine Watts dismounted their motorcycle. Reading this initially left me a little underwhelmed. However, after witnessing the work as a whole, I was able to look past my biases and observe that the execution of these first few lines are purposeful and are in complete service of the novel. These lines may not be particularly quotable, nor do they foreshadow events to come or make a poignant assertion about the human condition, much to Dr. Mills' dismay. These two lines, in tandem with one another, set the tone for the remainder of the book. A tone of acknowledging literary tropes and parameters, followed by brazen defiance of said expectations that spiral into absurdity. Although it's not my personal go-to for crafting memorable first lines, setting tone is one of the marks of a good first line, or in this case, line. Overall, as an individual who appreciates the craft of writing, I thoroughly enjoyed this book, and I look forward to whatever else Dr. Mills puts out in the future. However, what did I mean by leaning too far into the bit? I lean too far into the bit. Well, to get into that, we have to take a look at how this particular book was marketed. To understand my mode of thinking, you have to take into consideration the author of Ghost Hunters Adventures Club, Dr. Cecil H.H. Mills, a man who possesses the same amount of grace and subtlety in promoting his debut YA novel as one J. Sherman.
Buy my book. Buy my book. Buy my book.
Buy my book! Buy my book!
As some of you may have realized, Dr. Mills isn't an actual person, merely a caricature of pretentious writers brought to life by Aaron Hansen of Game Grumps, a man who is staunchly committed to the bit. Among being the creator and front personality for the YouTube channel Game Grumps, Aaron Hansen could be described as many things. An entrepreneur.
Fuck you! Get out of my store! The fuck out of my store, Jim! Oh, he's stealing my Reese's Pieces!
A voice actor.
All those years of docile nature, all those wasted years, and now my true bloodlust has awakened.
A man of integrity.
Feel the drift. Sure. Whoops!
A man of moderation.
War!
video game developer, a video game boy, and there's even whispers on the wind of him being an animator. The list of talents and hats this man totes is impressive, to be sure, but if we could just distill these various roles he plays, I think the one commonality that unifies his endeavors and ensures his continued success is that he's creative as hell. An example of the lengths Aaron is willing to go through for the sake of marketing can be seen in Soviet Jump Game.
On November 16, 2019, the Game Grumps channel released a video entitled Russian Bootleg Nintendo Games featuring only Aaron. Among the mostly broken video games, there was a cartridge with Russian handwriting on it. Upon playing it, only an error message appeared seemingly to ask for an Ethernet connection. A week later, a second video was released titled More Bootleg Russian Games. The cartridge was revisited. At this point, I was mildly interested, but not suspicious in the least. Then, on December 3rd, Game Grumps released a video called Lost Piece of Gaming History Uncovered, where Aaron gained assistance from someone familiar with the Cyrillic alphabet to tell him what the cartridge and error message said. Now, I'm invested. At the end of the video, Aaron managed to get past the error screen, which displayed a glitchy game display. After discussions with a video game programmer, Aaron gleaned the fact that he discovered a 30-year-old, never-released, unfinished Russian battle royale game with online capabilities. Working with this programmer, he was going to finish the game, set up servers, and release it for the public to play.
If this all sounds like a tall tale, it is. This was an elaborate marketing campaign for Aaron's new game, developed by Fantastic Passions and published through Game Grumps, called Soviet Jump Game. But the thing is, the bit didn't really end with that last video. It continued. On January 9th, 2020, the official release date of early access for Soviet Jump Game, the Game Grumps released a video called Aaron Gets Kidnapped by KGB, in which two supposed KGB operatives kidnaps Aaron, and these two individuals happen to make an appearance in a live stream that Aaron plays of Soviet Jump Game. If Soviet Jump Game shows us anything, it shows Aaron's passion, dedication, as well as commitment to his transmedia storytelling. To not only craft the lore of a 30-year-old video game, but to seamlessly integrate it into your regular content is not only just intriguing, it's also very effective. His marketing is deliberate and a lot of planning goes into its execution. So when it came to the marketing of Ghost Hunters Adventure Club, I was particularly attentive. I was trying to keep that same Soviet energy. Whispers of Dr. Mills, for me, I didn't hear anything about it till around the time Soviet Jump Game was being announced. But my attention wasn't fully brought onto him until about March 10th, when the Game Grumps secondary channel, The Grumps, premiered a video called Interviewing My Uncle, Dr. Cecil H.H. Mills, about his new book. Aaron's supposed uncle had a demeanor that I found absolutely hilarious and shamefully relatable, and it really made me want to buy the book. So I did. While reading the introduction of the book, Dr. Cecil H.H. Mills is so pronounced it's almost to the point of intrusion. And I find it so interesting that Aaron has crafted this pen name character with such detail and such vivid idiosyncrasies that it oozes off the page and seeps into my subconscious. I'm nearly convinced that Dr. Mills is merely a tulpa by Aaron's creation. And Aaron, if this is true, please teach me the ways. Noticing Dr. Mills' staunch presence within the book, I started making connections that weren't really there, that didn't even make sense, because I was taking information from the Ghost Hunters Adventures Club experience in its entirety, both marketing and book, to inform my misguided deductive reasoning. I'm going to go into some details in the book, not too spoilery. It probably doesn't go past like the first couple chapters. But if you're interested in reading the book and you don't want to hear anything about anything, I suggest you go ahead, go read the book, then come back and finish this video. With that being said, here comes a small brain take on what I thought was going on in the story. When I was first reading the story, I thought that Wallace P. Gross and Dr. Cecil H.H. Mills was the same person. Like Dr. Mills was retroactively writing how he duped and framed these kids to go and find this treasure for him that he could use to pay off his gambling debts or something like that. Like on some Scooby-Doo switcheroo, but with Until Dawn production, I guess. But hear me out. For me, I thought that there was way too much similarities between the Mills persona and like Gross's characterization for there not to be like a link there or just something more to it, despite having Gross have his head blown off fairly early in the book. So why would I think that the book's author and the book's murder victim was the same person? Well, for one, they had the same mannerism of profound condescension. For example, there's several lines in the book where Gross is stating the obvious to the protagonist, and it's very reminiscent to how Mills spoke to Aaron. The trio rounded a corner and walked into a room filled floor to ceiling with books. Gigantic tomes lay stacked on tables throughout, and from the many stained glass windows, the boys could see snow coming down at a steadier and steadier rate. The library, Wallace said. That starts with an L, mind you. The boys, while maybe not smart enough to understand many things, were at least smart enough to know that the word library started with the letter L. They exchanged a confused look.
Lastly, despite what my critics would have you believe, I don't much care for young adult readers, so why would I care for you, a young adult person?
I'm 33.
Good for you. You can count that high.
There's also the fact that Gross occupies the chateau on and off for various amounts of times to write books. I thought that maybe that coincided with Mills' disappearing act, alleged disappearing act. Mr. Gross has been a guest of ours for a long while, Madame Fournier told them. He always comes up to the chateau to work on his mystery novels, which you might know have garnered him worldwide acclaim. He always comes up here? Asked JJ. Yes, he's a bit of the superstitious type. He wrote his first novel here decades ago and refuses to work anywhere else. He's been at his latest manuscript for the past 3 years.
Is that why you disappeared for 5 years after your last novel failed?
Your wit remains sharp. But no, I did not disappear. I went on a soul-searching journey throughout the world, seeking its splendors and experiencing the likes of which would affirm any man's life. I did this all in order so that I might write truth and honor and conviction into my upcoming young adult mystery novel for children.
Did you disappear for tax evasion purposes again?
No, not this time.
There's also the hand-fisted insertion of Mills in the book, as well as an annotation on page 6. So I'm guessing Mills exists in this universe? Did you say you were reading Wallace P. Gross? Mm-hmm. He's who we're here to see. Oh yeah? Said the woman. He writes out of the chateau. His stuff's pretty good too, if a little on the nose. JJ folded his arms and scoffed. I'm sure he's a fine author, but he's no Dr. Cecil H.H. Mills. Now there's a letter pusher. And in the annotation, it says, editor's note, we are contractually obligated to keep this nod to the author in the book. You would think that was a little bit on the nose, but read further. His integration gets goddamn ridiculous. Not to mention the promo images of some signed copies of the book where it said, trust no one or sleep with one eye open. I had taken all these little tidbits offered to me through this marketing ploy and integrated into the story and had my mind set that this was Dr. Mills' roundabout way of telling like a devious story of how he duped people out of a huge treasure. Kind of like that one guy who did the thing and then wrote about the thing. In hindsight, it was a bit of a reach, but here's the hoping. I mean, I was sitting there and thinking there's no way that, Aaron can give all this ancillary information, these interviews, these tidbits of lore. There's no way. It has to mean something. It has to contribute something. And that something is this. It's just a bit. That's all it is. It's only a bit. Just a fun way to promote awareness about a product that on its own doesn't really need the marketing. It's good on its own, but the marketing adds a certain je ne sais quoi about it, certain charm. And I, for one, am a fan that actually enjoyed it. And it's a good book. That's all I can say. It's a really good book, and I so recommend it to anyone who just wants a light little read. And that's this video. Hopefully you enjoyed. Not sure what I'm going to put up next. I have a couple ideas, but we'll see. So hopefully you subscribe, like, comment. Have you read the book? What are your thoughts on it? Did you have like a similar wavelength, or was I on like Planet Stupid? Anyway, have a great day and take care. Bye.